new Gemaras, get more people to join. Those who fell off the bandwagon in the middle of Shabbos, it's okay. We can start all over again. We're starting a brand new Masechta. Grab your flyer, put it up in shul, put it up in your backyard, give it to the local newspaper. A little bit, we're going weiter in the Megillah. The one Megillah that we got, is that Yeshua? Who just walked in? Okay. It says like this. I finished with you through YouTube, Masechtas Brachos, which translates blessings, Shabbos, which says, Kol berchandi lo v'tata b'yom shviyah. All blessings of the week are dependent on the seventh day, which is Shabbos. We made Kalim Masechtas Shabbos to accept the Brachos. We made Kalim, we made the Shabbos a Brachos. A whole Torah here, we're starting Erevin, which can also translate to Arvos. Kol Yisrael Arevim Zel Zeh. We have an obligation to connect the entire world to Yeshir as part of Arvos. I'm planning to host a siyum for my family members at an undisclosed location. So this is the Borough Park wanted to get a hold of this guy. They decided he's in Borough Park because he's Hasidish. I don't think all Hasidim live in Borough Park, but that's what they decided. So they want him to join, but he's saying that he's not going to join. He's going to be at an undisclosed location someplace on earth. I hope it's on earth. We'll have two speakers of approximately 2 minutes each. The first speaker, Rabbi Eli Stefansky, a recorded YouTube video of Daf 115 at minute 148 seconds till the end. The second speaker will be myself, a vart I heard from Rabbi Stefansky connected to a golden dove. I'm not a Rosh Hashiva Magid Shir Bal Darish and Kol Yungaman. I'm a Pashta Jew, a businessman trying to fulfill God's will, illuminate the entire world with light that shines from one end to the other. I hope you'll forgive me for my writing a long email, taking up your time for my errors in grammar and spelling. My background is Hasidish with no proper English education. And then it goes on the Megillah and it says anonymous. Alei Vatzlach, anonymous. P.S. Some funny parts of the shir. After learning with you brachos and Shabbos, I got to know you a little, your family and your members. About you. In the beginning, Masechtas Brachos, you spoke a little bit about your wife, and then you stopped when somebody wrote you an email that it's not nice to make fun of your wife in public. Avi was just giving me musar that I shouldn't take these emails seriously. So maybe I'll go back and making fun of my wife. I don't know. The bracha shahakol for your cup of water you stopped saying aloud because of a discrepancy of how you pronounce the word shahakol. That's not true. The reason why I don't make shahakol anymore is because I don't go anywhere. It's on my table and I drink way before the shir starts. But when I went to a new place, that's when I made a shahakol. Okay, close. You love to visit the safari when we're learning Masechtas Brachos almost every day. You took us to the safari, and then you stopped for whatever reason. Because Shabbos doesn't have animals. But once we have lions and stuff, then we go back to the safari. You like to jet ski? Some odd story of a mikveh happened while you were jet skiing. You're a pilot and used to own your private jet. Not quite, halavai. It was a private single-engine propeller plane. Still, it's kishmak. That's how the story is going. It was a G5 jet. $45 million. No. Until something drastic happened to your neighbor's plane. You own a house in Florida. Not really. I have a partnership there with my shver. You used to live in the Five Towns. Yeah? You lived in Borough Park for a very short period of time. One night. You moved back for a reason unknown to you. You learned in Munkat Cheder for a very short time, and there you got to know Chasisha Havara. You read perfectly the first verse in the Parshas Hazinu. Hazinu Hashemayim v'adabayro. Your father's a great masmid. You davened as a kid, Vasikin. Your mother passed away at a very young age. Your wife is from Chicago. Your first job was by your uncle as an electrician. You're also a caterer. Your wife's father and your father-in-law is a surgeon. Your in-laws cooking up a storm for Shabbos. Okay, fine. Okay, we'll go all the way, not to the end, because it goes on forever. Your wife is called to see Masechtas Brachos a Rebbetzin. She didn't like it. She said she's a Chicagoan girl. Usually live in Israel for Passover. The last 20 years you were in a hotel for Pesach. This year due to Corona, your wife made the first time Pesach herself. I guess it passed. Yeah, the first time she made the whole thing from beginning to end. You made sure to catch that guy that stole your money at Grand Central Station. There is more to write, but the above will suffice. Yishkoyach. The Megillah keeps on going. Oh, hold on. Oh, it is. Hold on. Very good. So it is. Today's shir is being sponsored by Kalman of the Five Towns. Who else? Kalman, but also this guy, no? That's what I thought, so I did prepare it well. Yeah, Kalman, and so sponsored by Israela and Stephen Perlich, on the yard side of his father Binyamin Berib Shmuel, Benjamin Perlich, Olav Hashem, the Neshama should have an aliyah. And by Kalman of the 5 towns, he says, in memory of Menachem Mendel ben Simcha, a Holocaust survivor, is a war hero, Talmid Chacham, died before his passing. He recited by heart a sugi from Bava Metzia. And then he says, looking so forward to the 5 towns, see him, please let people know how to reach us. Fancy barbecue, including steaks, tables, swimming, etc. Please reach out to me. There's no mention of cheers, but there are tables. On another note, please try to do some kind of thing selling baseball caps. Fine. And that's it. So, the 5 towns is coming. They're going to have a major siyum. And this goes over here. Geshmak, thanks for the sponsorship. A lot of sponsorships available for the actual siyum. The siyum itself is $10,000 only. But there's other sponsorships if you want. And you can talk to Yosef about them. Zok de Hele Gemara. We are holding on Daf Kuf Nun Dalid on the base, right? Yeah. We are holding. We can just make this up because nobody knows. Where are we? Here we go. I'm just doing the whole Gemara. Fine. I don't know where we're holding. 5 lines from the bottom. Yeah? So this idea we were discussing tzdadim. Tzdadim is, can you use the side of an animal? You can't ride an animal on Shabbos. Can you use the side of an animal? Can you use the side of a tree? Says the Gemara, you can't go into a sukkah that has 2 walls that were made by yourself, and 1 wall is a tree. So we have a machlokes, can you go into the sukkah? Why is it called oilen? So we touched upon it a little bit. Oilen is you go up into it, but basically the sukkah was on top of the house, so it's oilen. And the concern, as we mentioned on Friday, is that the schach is leaning on whatever slats that you put into this tree. So you have schach, slats. Here, we'll go back to that picture. You can find it somewhere. No, not today. Oh, here. So here's the tree. This is your 3rd wall. Here are the slats that go into the tree. And the schach is on top of the slats. Says the Gemara, so perhaps the machlokes is dadim okay, it's dadim not okay. The Marsov it's dadim asurin, and therefore you can't use it as a wall. Or Marsova mutarim. People, as Rashi mentioned, that people would put stuff on their schach, so you're using the schach that's on the slats, that's on the tree, so that's dadim, and it's okay. Umarsova or osur. Marsov it's dadim asurim, Marsov mutarim. Amar Abaye loy. Everybody might agree. Maybe there's no machlokes. Over here it's completely different, because if you notice how I said it, you are putting something on the schach that's on top. The schach is touching the slats. That's touching the sukkah. So it's 2 steps removed from the tree. You have schach that's on the slats. That's 1 tzad, and the slats are in the tree. That's the 2nd one. That's 2 tzdadim. It's like putting a basket on the side of a donkey and putting your kid in that basket. So it's a tzad of a tzad. The story of the Gemara, when he put his child, he did a slide on the side of the donkey. So that's literally the side of the donkey. This is the side of the tree. So these slides on the side of the tree. But over here, you're talking about the schach that's on the side of the slats that's on the side of the tree. That's 2 times removed, and that's the machlokes maybe. So the kula almudz dadim asurim. Everybody holds if it's directly on the side of the tree, it would be asur. Over here, it's 1 step removed. So Rav says no. At the end of the day, if you hold that the tzad, the side of a tree is asur, then the side of the tree is asur. Man is shari b'tziditz dadim, shari nai b'tziditz dadim. And if you hold that the side of a tree is mutter, so once removed is also mutter. They're connected. As the Gemara, that's not true. We see a case that the side is aser, but the side of the side is mutter. You can make a distinction. Not I can't say that Omid Aleph is sponsored by Kalman, because if I say it, he's going to send money in again. I'm just going to say Eli Kamiansky. It's sponsored by Eli Kamiansky today. But you don't have to send in money. And I don't want you to send the money. If you do, I'm sending it back, because now I have your brother sitting right next to me, and if you do, I'll just give him the money. So don't play games with me. But it's sponsored by Eli Kamiansky from Tzur Adasa. Yased Be'ilon V'tola Bokal Kola. Could somebody get this thing away from me, please? Thank you. Put it in a room so it doesn't bark in middle shir. Thanks. Shem Yerachim. Noat Yosed Be'ilon V'tola Bokal Kola. Here you have a tree, and in the tree you see a brown peg. And on the peg you have a ladder. Yeah, you can see it. You see the brown thing on top? So what does it say here? He didn't put the ladder directly on a tree. He put the ladder on a peg. What's the peg? The peg is tzad. That's a tzad. And the ladder is tzidei tzdadim. The peg is one step removed away from the tree. And the ladder is two steps removed from the tree. And on, what am I talking about? The dog. Wrong picture, sorry. False start. It's not even Avi's fault. Here we go. Here he has a little peg in the tree. And in the tree, on that he put a basket. And on the basket he has a bread. In the basket he has a bread. How big is a basket? It says over here 4 tefachim. What's going on here? We're talking about an eruv. Eruv tchumim. You remember that picture? You have a house, then you have 2,000 amas, and 2,000 amas you made an eruv. And so you could go from those 2,000 amas, another 2,000 amas. Yeah? I have a picture in there, but I'm not going to make you go get it. I forgot to take it out. Fine. So typically you can only walk 2,000 amas from your house to the end of the city. But if you make another eruv, you put your bread there, so now that bread is as if that's where you live. You're a shoyvis right there where the bread is, and then you can walk another 2,000 amas. The problem is, look what he did. He was trying to be all cool and get the bread away from the animals, so he hangs it on a tree, on a peg on a tree. But now, because the basket is 4 tefachim, and 4 tefachim is its rishus by itself, and over here it's 10 tefachim high, off the ground, so it's a rishus by itself. It's a rishus hayachid. You're talking about it's a rishus hayachid, and if it's a rishus hayachid, you're in rishus harabim, you're not allowed to take the bread out of the basket. Yep, you have a problem here. You can't take the bread out of the basket, and memela, your eruv is worthless. If you can't eat the bread, then it's not an eruv. It's not as if you sat there. It's not as if you lived there on Shabbos. So eini ruve eruv. Lamata masor tfachim eruve eruv. But if it's within 10 tfachim, so it's not a different rishus. It's part of the rishus harabim, so it's an eruv. Says the Gemara, that's only because he put that peg in the tree. But if there's no peg, you can't get to it. Why can't you get to it? Because now it's the actual tree. So we're saying over here that the basket is one sad, the peg is the second sad of the tree. So you see what's going on here? This peg is tzad. This basket is tzidei tzdadim. It's 2 times removed from the tree. You have to pull the basket, to pull the peg, to pull the tree. That's 2 times away from the tree. That's why it's okay. But let's say you didn't have a peg. Let's say you just hung your basket directly on a branch. That would be aser. Because now the basket is tzad. And tzad is aser. So you see a distinction between tzidei tzdadim and tzad. Yeah, understood? So here we have an afkamina, but Rava says there's no afkamina. If you hold tzad is mutter, tzidei tzdadim is mutter. If you hold tzad is aser, so tzidei tzdadim is aser. That's not true. In this case, putting the basket directly on the tree is aser, but the basket is a tzad and it's asur. But putting on two removed on the peg, then it becomes mutter. So you see this difference between tzad and tzidei zdadim. Says the Gemara, this Tana says that you're not allowed to put the basket directly on the tree, but he allows you to put a basket on a peg that's on a tree, which is two removed. There is another picture, but I didn't have patience to print it. It's a basket that has a very narrow top. And the concern is that when you put your hand into the basket to remove your bread, you're going to shake up the tree. The shakal erev komanid leilon v'kam shamish beilon gufe, and then you're actually using the tree itself. Fine. Says the Gemara. Oh, so by the way, it's just stam halacha. We'll get to it in a second. Fine. So the halacha is not like Rava said. Zdadin, that one step removed from the tree, one peg is asur, but two steps removed, the basket that's touching the bag, like this brisa, mutar. Tzidei zdadin mutarim. You do make a distinction between a tzad and a double tzad. Omer Rav Ashi, hashadamers zdadin asurin. Now that you're telling me that a tzad is asur, hay darga de midla. Oh, now we're going back to this geshmaki case. Colorful ladder. You have a ladder. You want to get up to a watchtower. You shouldn't put it directly on the palm tree. Now the ladder, you're not touching the tree, you're touching the ladder. So what's a ladder? Zdadim, one removed from a tree. So what do? You want to climb up to the watchtower. So now you put it on this peg that's in the palm tree. The peg is directly attached to the palm tree. You put it on the peg and you climb up. So what is that called? Tzidei zdadim. Do not step on top of the brown peg, because the brown peg is attached to the tree and that's a tzad. You should always step, make sure you put your foot directly on the ladder, not on the peg. Okay. Now, what about setting up this ladder on Shabbos? Are you permitted to set up the ladder on Shabbos? The answer is not. Because by you putting the ladder on the peg, then you are using the peg, and the peg is a tzad. So you can't use a tzad, but you can use a ladder that was already there before Shabbos, because the ladder is the tzidei tzdadim. Says the Mishnah, Matirim Pekiye Omer Lefnei Behemo. I love Rashi here. Every Rashi here says, Mefarish B'Gemara, and Mefarish B'Gemara, I think, a lot of Mefarish B'Gemaras. Maybe it's the next Mishnah. No. Okay, anyway. Matir Bekiya Omer Lefnei Behema. So you have this bushel of food right here, and it has a couple of straps, and we'll see in the Gemara 2, 3. You're allowed to undo it. What's the concern? The concern is, are you overworking yourself on Shabbos? Is it a good reason? So we have to pay attention to the words here. We have to remember a couple of words. The Mishnah starts off with Pikiyei Amir. Then the Mishnah says Kipin. Are they the same? Not the same? Machlokes. And you could scatter the Kipin. The law is Hazirin. And we're going to see in the Gemara whether Zirin is the same thing as Pikiyin, as hay, or Zirin is cedar branches. Says the Gemara, you cannot crush. Shachas is the new wheat, as it only has a third. It's what the animals like to eat. It's the fresh stuff. You can't eat. When I was a kid, they used to call it boxer. I don't think anybody calls it boxer anymore. Maybe they do. Maybe in Bar Park. You know what boxer is? Carib. Everybody knows what boxer is. Okay, fine. In Hebrew, charuv, lifnei behema. So you can't crush it up. Now, the stuff that we eat is pretty tough, and you would understand why you have to crush it up. But it also comes in a softer variety. So this is a tircha shalei l'tzairach. So you don't have to crush it up. Let the animal eat it as it. There's no point for you to start crushing it. Ben dako, ben gaso. Also important to remember these words. It doesn't matter whether it's a large animal like a cow, a donkey. It doesn't matter if it's a small animal like a sheep and a goat. Rabbi Yehuda comes the Tana. Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah says matir becheruvim ledako. So just reading it would make sense because look, charov is tough stuff, and the behemoth dako, the small animal, doesn't have such strong teeth, so you crush it up for them. Says the Gemara, Amar Avuna. So here's shita number 1 in the Mishnah. Hein pekiyin, hein kipin. So when you start off the Mishnah talking about pekiyin and kipin, they're the identical things. They're both hay. Pekiyin tray, kipin tlaso. So going back to this picture, pekiyin and kipin are the same material. It's the same food. Just the question is 1, 2, 3. What are these called, Avi?
Straps.
I don't like straps. We'll call them straps. There must be a better. It's not, a strap is like a belt almost. These are like ropes, strings, ties, whatever. Okay, straps. Avi says straps. He's an attorney. He knows the stuff. David Handler says something else. I don't know what, but something else. All right, 3 straps.
Fasteners.
I don't know. What does the article say? 3 zip ties. Very good.
Bundles. They call bundles. That's not.
3 bundles.
No, that's not right.
No. What does the article say?
Tied.
Ties. 3 ties. Okay, but I don't know what they are. The 3 things. All right.
Bungee cords.
Yeah, bungee cords, zip ties, fasteners, and not, what did you call the first thing? Not belts, not
straps.
Not straps. No, straps is not good. But everybody got the point now. Keep in tlosa. So the question is, you have 2 or 3, and the Mishnah says, Pekin, you could do it. Says, fine, you could spread the 3, you could spread the 2. It's all the same halacha. So the mefaspasin is going on all the bundles. Doesn't matter if it has 2 straps or 3 straps. You could undo them and you could scatter it in front of the animal. Now, why are you scattering the food in front of the animal? Because, explains Rashi, the scattering the food creates an aroma, a certain smell that's good for. When it's together, it's all hot and it's terrible for the animal. He doesn't have any cheshik to eat from it. But when you open it up and you spread it out for him, then his cheshik comes and he starts eating. Vuadin lekipin. So it doesn't matter if it has 3 ties, 2 ties. Avalois has zirin. When it comes to the zirin, you cannot spread them, you can't scatter them, you can't even undo the bundle. So the Gemara. Now, and what's the zirin? The zirin, did I skip a word in? I might have skipped. Because I don't remember saying it. Keep in tlosa. Zirin da arze. Zirin are branches off a cedar tree. So if you have branches off a cedar tree, there's no reason that you should be able to open them up on Shabbos and give it to the animal. Why? So we're going to have almost an opposite machlokes. We have Rav Chizda, who says the opposite of Rav Yehuda in a second. Rav Chizda says that, Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda. Rav Huna says that you could create food, you could improve on the food, but you cannot create food. So if you have straw, you have this is food. So you just want to improve it because the animal doesn't like it in this state. You want to make it appetizing for the animal, so you open it up, spread it out. But to take branches of a tree, they're not, it's fuel for a fireplace. Now you decided to undo it and give it to the animal. So what you did is you created food. You took something that's not food, made it into food. That's his Rav Huna you can't do. Rav Yehuda Omar, no. Rav Yehuda says the exact opposite. You could create food on Shabbos, but you cannot work too hard to improve the food on Shabbos for an animal. Rav Yehuda Omar, hein pkin, hein zirin. So he says no. Zirin is not the cedar. Zirin is the 3 bundles. Pekin, Trey, Zirin, Klasa. So when the Mishnah starts off talking about, it almost makes more sense to Rav Yehuda. The Mishnah starts off talking about a double knot, and all the way at the end, Zirin is a triple knot. Zirin, Klasa. Keeping the Arze, and keeping, and the middle one is talking about wood from a cedar tree. You're permitted to undo the double. But you're not allowed to spread it. Why? Because it's just too much. It's for pleasure, and for pleasure, that's considered a tirche yisero. V'keepin paspusin namim faspina. When it comes to the cedar, mikatzel katza. Before Rav Huna said cedar you can't even touch. It's fuel wood. No, Rav Yehuda says not only is it not fuel wood, I am creating new food because it's mutter to create new food, and therefore I could spread it out because I got to get this thing out and make it food for the animal. The only way to make it food for the animal is to spread it out in front of him. Avaloi says zirin lefaspas, but the zirin not. What's zirin? Tied 3 times. So he's saying, if it's tied twice, I'm allowed to undo it and spread it. If it's tied 3 times, I'm allowed to undo it but not spread it. Avol, again, where are we? Rabbi Yudama Heinim, Pekin, Heinim, Zirin. Pekin and Zirin are the same thing, they're both straw. Pekin, Trey, Zirin, Tlaza, 1 is 2, 1 is 3. Keepin the arzei, and keepin means the cedar wood. So the 2-1 you could undo, do not spread it. And the cedar you're allowed to undo and even spread it out because now you're creating food. Now, the final one, the 3 knots, so Rabbi Yehuda holds in both. 2 and 3 you can undo and not spread out. The only time you can spread is cedar. And we pass like Rabbi Yehuda. So Omar Rava, my time in the Rabbi Yehuda, Kosovar, Shivu Uchlo Meshavinon. You're allowed to create food from scratch. In other words, like take the cedar branches which were fuel and make them into food. But you cannot work hard in order to improve the food. All right, so now we're going to ask a couple kashas until the end of the sugya. Now, by the way, tomorrow's daf and all the way to the end of the Shabbos basically is extremely easy in Yishmak. Tomorrow's all Agata stories. Come early to hear all the stories. Says the Gemara. Tanan, Eimer raskin es hashachas v'secharuvim l'fnei ha'behema. L'fnei ha'behema. Bein dako, bein gasa. So it says in our Mishnah, you cannot crush the shachas, the fodder, the young, the fresh straw when it's only 1/3 of its growth, and not the boxer. Doesn't matter if it's older, if it's a small animal, large animal. No. My love, charuvim dumi shachas. Gemara wants to say that the charuv, the carob, is similar to the shachas. And charuv, we said, it could be soft and it could be hard. So we're saying no, we're talking about the soft one. Mashachas the rikiche, av charuv the rikiche. We're talking about the soft carobs. Alma l'terchinam b'uchlo. So you see from here, since the Mishnah tells us you can't crush it up, why can't you crush it up? Why am I crushing it up? I want to make it easy for my animal. I want to make it better, more appetizing. But if the Ravuna says you're permitted to improve, you just can't create new food. And over here say you can't make it better, can't improve the food. Flip it around. Not that the charov is similar to the straw and that means that it's soft. The opposite. The straw is similar to the charov, meaning that the straw is hard. So, why do you have to make it softer? Because we're talking about one of these guys. There's a little guy, a little donkey, he needs help. Toshma, it says at the end of the Mishnah, all the way at the end of the Mishnah, last words in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda the Tana, not Rabbi Yehuda that we just went through a whole sugya with. that says you're allowed to make food from scratch, you're allowed to take cedar wood and make it. No, Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda says, Mata becharuvim l'daka. You're allowed to take boxer, carob, and crush it up for the little guy, this guy. Like I don't know if this is a little guy. This is a baby, Magasa. So let's talk about a sheep. L'daka in, l'gasa loy. So now the Gemara makes this calculation. If the first Tana in our Mishnah holds that you're not permitted to improve food, shivuyim mishavinon, but you're allowed to create food. How did it come Rabbi Yehuda? Hecharuvim ladaka nami shavuyuchlu. So that's why Rabbi Yehuda comes along and says, listen, I'm creating food. I'm not improving food. I'm creating food. Before the animal couldn't eat it. It's too tough on the animal. And now I'm making it edible. So making food edible is creating food. It's not improving food, it's creating food. And that's why it makes sense that Rabbi Yehuda says, listen, even the smaller animals I could chop it up for. But if the Tanakama holds like Rav Huna, that you're not allowed to create food, but I'm allowed to improve food, Rabbi Yehuda damate b'cheruvim l'daka, if Rabbi Yehuda holds that you're permitted to give this food to a small animal, kolchkin ligasa, then certainly if you're improving it, you're also improving it for a larger animal. So why can't you improve it for the larger animal? Now what's very interesting, I'm not going to go into it because we're complicated as is enough, but why don't we just say that Rabbi Yehuda says the opposite of the Tanakama completely? Just like we have a Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda, and they both say the opposite of each other. So perhaps in the Mishnah also, Rabbi Yehuda and the Tanakama are saying the opposite of each other. What's the Gemara's big raya? The Gemara seems to say that Rabbi Yehuda has to hold like the Tanakama, but maybe they hold the opposite of each other. So Rashi says, just from the lashon of the Mishnah, you can't say that. It doesn't fit in well into the Mishnah. Says the Gemara. Now this is very, very hard to understand, but it's more like a riddle, like a trick almost. So the Gemara says, "Mi savers daka daka mamish." You think when I'm saying the word daka in Rabbi Yehuda, I'm talking about a small animal like a goat? My daka, gasa. No, daka in this case is referring to a large animal, a cow. Umay korle daka, the daika ba'uchla. It needs koiseses yafa umadekes achlan bepia. It chews it really well. So I mean, isn't that a doichak? Yeah, it's a huge doichak. To say that in the entire Shas, daka means a goat, and all of a sudden because you have you're in a jam, you're going to say daka means that it eats its food really well. So the Gemara says, the Gemara is entertaining you. The Gemara says, even if you want to say such a wild pshat, it's still not a good pshat. Why? But in our Mishnah itself, it uses the word daka. And over there, you can't say the translation of the word daka means it chews its food well, because we're talking about a gasa and a daka. So what does gasa mean? It doesn't chew its food well. Over there, of course, we're talking about a large animal, so daka means a small animal. So maybe the Sefer also means a small animal. Therefore, even if you're going to be wild with me, it's not going to work, because it doesn't fit into the Mishnah. Kashya, you're right, so I have no way out of this. Toshma, Mechatchin es had the Louis of Neabeimo Daf Kufnun Hayom base sponsored by Shia Greenfield. Green Star Electrical Contracting. So you're allowed to take these gourds and chop them up in front of an animal. Now I'm not a big mumch in pumpkins. So what's a pumpkin? Hard or soft? Vesan avela lifnei aklavim. You take the dead animal and a vela, and you could cut it up in front of a dog. My love, luim dumya din avela. Stop my question: are you allowed to feed animals on Shabbos? Your own animals, you're permitted. What about a stray dog? Could you feed a stray dog on Shabbos? Question: anybody know the answer? You're allowed to go on Shabbos and feed a stray dog. How about, here, another question. Are you allowed to feed a stray giraffe on Shabbos? No, everybody's saying no, you're not allowed. Giraffe, you're not allowed. What about a stray dog? So we're going to see very interesting halachas here. V'senevela v'nei haklav, my love, deluin dumi denevela. L'chayra, a pumpkin is similar to the nevela. Ma nevela derikicha, we know an animal that just dropped dead, very soft meat. Avdeluin derikicha, it's in the same sentence, so they're the same style food. They're both soft. Alma tachinam ba'uchla b'tivda de Rabbi Yehuda. Over here you see you have ready-made food. It's called meat. You're not creating food; it's already made, but you're allowed to chop it up. You're allowed to chop up a gourd. So Rabbi Yehuda says that you're not allowed to improve on the food. You're allowed to create food, but you're not creating it. You're just cutting it up into edible sized pieces, but you're not creating food. You're improving it. Rabbi Yehuda should say it's Asar on Shabbos. Amalach Rav Yehuda loy nevela dumin dedluin. No, the nevela is tough like a pumpkin. Mad luin dashune, just like pumpkins are tough, they're hard. Nevela dashune. Where do you find? I ask my kids, what kind of meat is tough? Any animal in the world. Start saying horse and lions and polar bears, but they didn't come up with this one. Bebesar pile, elephant meat. I don't know. Going back to the safari, the guy complained that there's no safari. In the safari, I once saw a video. A guy put a video camera, and he did the over 2 days. What is it called when they speed it up? You know what I'm talking about. Anyway, it's very interesting. First you see the lions come, and then you see what is it called? It's amazing to see the amount of animals that eat off one. Oh no, first the elephants come. I forgot. First the elephants come, and they sit shiva. They cry, literally. They cry. Time lapse video. First the elephants come, and they say goodbye, and they cry, and there's tears, a whole matzav. Then they go away. Then after they go away, the tiger, the lions come, and then the hyenas, and then the this, and then that, then the wolves, and then the little jackals. The whole jungle has a feast. Talk about a safari. And then the little maggots come, until there's nothing left but the bones. Kids, the entire place has food for like a month. Fine. So I guess the Gemara knew, b'bsar pile, it's tough stuff. Inami, buguryasa zutri, puppy dogs, a puppy. So they need this broken down, otherwise they can't eat it at all. You're going to give an avela to a puppy can't eat an avela. So by you putting it into small pieces, bite-sized pieces for the puppy, now you just created food. Tashma. You're allowed to break up the hay, and you take the aspasta, it's the something else, and you mix them together. Alma tachinam ba'uchla. What's the pshat? I thought you can't improve food. Says the Gemara, we're not talking about. You're right, you can't. But this is special. Teven betivno sario. We're talking about spoiled hay. Aspasta be'ile zutre. Again, going back to this chamar, this little baby donkey, a little cute guy. So for him, that's what you need to do. So you're not allowed to improve, but for this donkey, the only way you can eat it is like that. So mainly you're creating food. Says the Mishnah, Ein oivsim es hagomol v'loi darsin. This we're going to see in the Gemara. The different over here, Rashi says every 10 seconds, Mefarsh b'Gemara. But here's a nice picture from Yoni. See what the guy's doing? He's stuffing his camel. Pasha force feeding his camel. So we're going to see there's different stages. You stuff it completely, you stuff it, they could spit it out, not. Darsin. Aval mal eaten. We'll see what that is. Ve'ema mirin is ha golem, you can't fatten up the calves. Aval mal eaten. Umal kitin l'tarne goylem, you could force feed a chicken. V'noisnim mayim lemurson, and you can put water into the bran. Aval goylem, but you can't mix it up. If you own bees or pigeons, you can't put water in front of them. as we're going to see in the Gemara, because they could get it by themselves. If they get it by themselves, not important for you. Aval noisim lifnei avazim, or there's another pshat. Water they have. Aval noisim lifnei avazim v'tani goylim. You could put all the stuff, food, in front of the geese and the chickens. Lifnei yoina hardisayos. Says the Gemara, Mayi noivsin, Amar Rav Yehuda, ein oisin lo eivus b'toich me'el. You can't force this animal to have a trough in its stomach. So you're forcing a ton of food into its stomach. What, you're going to put that much in its stomach? In. I saw this Arab guy that fed its camel a whole kur of food, a tremendous amount. Va'atina kur is like 144 eggs worth. And then not only that, he put another, they were going on a big trip through the desert. So decided, look, I'm not going to have food there. So let me just shtup the camel up with food. And in addition to that, he put food on top of the camel. The same amount, another kur of food in addition to all the other baggage that he's schlepping. So you could force feed a camel. What does it mean? What are these two things? So we have machlokes what it means. According to Rav Yehuda, once again, he's the Bal Machlokes here. He's in the Machlokes, I should say. Hamra means that you push it down so far that the camel can't regurgitate it, it can't come back up. Halata, it's the same action. You're pushing food into its body, but one, the camel could spit it up if he wants. Halata, you could spit it up, and Hamra not. Rav Chizda Amar, same machlokes. Rav Chizda Amar, idi vidi l'makom sheni yichol lachzer. Both of them to a place where the camel can no longer bring it back up. And it makes sense. Look, you're going on a trip, you don't want him to spit it up. V'hamra b'kli, halata b'yad. Hamra is also because you're using some sort of spoon. Halata is with his hand, like in this, I don't know, you can't really see. Malitin, he says, is just putting in the front, and over here is Darsin, Oifsim and Darsin. But over here you see his hand going all the way in. Shmaka picture.
How far is he going to get already?
Far enough where he can't put it back up, he can't spit it back up, and now he's ready for his big Chalamai trip, his big Ben Izmanim trip. Says the Gemara, Masar Rav Yosef, Mahalketin l'Tarni Goyim. Oh, so what's the lashon? We have the same lashon by Tarni Goyim. Mahalketin. Not really. Halketin. You could force feed a chicken. Vein tzarach loymar shemal kitin. So, if you could force feed, let's see. If mahalketin means force feed, so certainly you could do malkitin, which is a little bit, put it in his mouth. Vei malkitin l'yoyin, but you can't even put a little bit into the pigeon. If you can't put a little bit in his mouth, so certainly you can't force feed it down his throat. My malkitin or my malkitin. If it means that you're forcing it down with your hand, malkitin and malkitin just put it in front of him. What? You're not allowed to just throw food in front of your pigeons? They're your pigeons. Why can't you throw food in front of them? And the Gemara is going to say, no, you can't, even though they're yours. So from here you see, says Rabbi Yehuda, you see the nafkamina. One is all the way down the throat, and one is not. Can't spit it back up. She could. And therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda, finishes off, this is Rav Chizda, I think, so this is a kasha from Rav Chizda and Rav Yehuda. Rav Chizda said enough community between a kli and not a kli, and over here the only way you can explain hamra, if we already went through two steps, we have two things. One is forcing it down to a place where it can't put it back up, and then you have another step, forcing the place that it could bring it back up, and now you have amra. What's amra? You're already done with the two, so amra must be a kli, which Rav Yehuda doesn't discuss. That's Rav Chizda. Amalach Rav Yehuda la'olam mahalketin the safi le'biyadayim. Says Rav Yehuda, no, you proved it from a question, and I'm going to answer your question. What was your question? The question was, why is it usher for you, according to your cheshbon, why is it so usher to put food in front of your pigeons? Put your food in front of the pigeon. They're your pigeons. You have to feed your pigeons. You You do it with your hand. Malkitin neshadali kamayu. And malkitin means you throw it in front of you, in front of the animal. With a kakashi lachyon neshav v'chviyon aliyah, but your whole proof was from pigeons. And you're saying, how is it possible? That means to put food in front of an animal. Of course, you're allowed to put food in front of a pigeon. Says the Gemara, you're not mechuyev to feed your animal that could eat on its own. So what if you own a dog and it's able to eat on its own? It could go into the garbage can. Then you're not allowed to feed it. But that's not what I was saying. I was saying the exact opposite before. This is unbelievable chiddush. This chazer, you own a chazer. You own a whole bunch of chazerim. You own a farm of chazer. You're not allowed to feed them on Shabbos. You're not mechuyev to feed a pig. Why? Because it's a PIG. And you shouldn't be owning a pig. There's a curse if you own a pig. So because you shouldn't be feeding it, you have no right to feed it. But a kelev, you could own a dog. You see, unfortunately, you could own a dog. It's not as long as it's not dangerous, you're allowed to own a dog. And therefore, if you're allowed to own it, you have to feed it. So it's okay. But what about the pigeon? As we're going to see soon, the pigeon can just get its own food. It doesn't need you. You're not allowed to put water in front of your bees. Bees is a huge business, right? Without bees, the farmers are out of business. And today, the bees are going down. It's a whole thing. So they bring these trucks. I don't know if you've ever seen it. They bring a truck with a gazillion bees, and they open up the doors, and the bees just go all over your field. And then when they pollinate and everything, the truck comes back, and it goes back in the truck. It's a whole business. If these bees are yours, you're not allowed to feed them water. And if you own pigeons, you're not allowed to give them water. But you're allowed to give geese, a different type of pigeon you're allowed to. My time, because you're not mechuyev to. You don't have to feed them. Says the Gemara. So why are you talking about water? Don't give them anything. So, very interesting. If it's an animal that could do well on its own, like a pigeon could go out there and drink, or a bee that doesn't need your water could just go to the fountain somewhere and drink, which they do. So you're not allowed to feed them. That's a tirchiyas eira. But if you have a dog that doesn't know how to survive on its own, then you're permitted to feed it. So lehalacha, here's the halacha over here. It says over here that any kind of could you turn that thing? Oh, and I didn't put my tissue underneath it, so it's a little crooked the whole time. Okay, we'll have to fix it for tomorrow. So it says like this: any hefker dog, you're allowed to give it mezainos, and that's Shulchan Aruch Harav. In Aruch HaShulchan, if he's hungry, a stray dog is hungry, mitzvah litin lo oichel gam b'Shabbos mishum hakosuv v'rachamav al kol ma'asov. That comes from the Aruch HaShulchan. If you see a dog that's hungry, and dogs get hungry, as the Gemara is going to say soon. Oh, but here's a major halacha. This is Simin Shin Chav Dalet. I hate to ruin a lot of people's minhag. And he says like this: Yesh noagim liten chitim lefnei oifos b'Shabbos shira. A lot of people have a minhag to feed the birds in Shabbos shira. Ve'enoi nachain, and they're doing the wrong thing. Sharei eim is a noisam alecha. I didn't look over here. This is the Magen Avram. That's it. He doesn't bring another shita. So if you go by the Mishnah Berurah, he says that it's usher to feed birds on Shabbos shira, even though it's a very holy minhag, and and people do it, but he doesn't understand how you're permitted to do it, because a wild bird does fine on its own. And when any animal does fine by its own, not only a wild bird, your own animal could do well on its own, your own pigeons, your own bees, usher to feed them on Shabbos. That's the tirchiyas eira. The only time it's mutter to feed an animal, any animal. So it doesn't matter if it's yours or wild. If it's a wild dog, you're allowed to feed it because it doesn't do well on its own. And if it's a private animal that does well on its own, you're not allowed to feed it. Kitzer, big problem for those who have that minhag to feed the birds on Shabbos. Dorsh Rabbi Yoina, I already knew that halacha because my father is bucking Shulchan Aruch, and he didn't allow us to feed the birds. Dorsh Rabbi Yoina. A pischa de bein siyah. Rabbi Yoina, he darshaned by the doorway of the nasi. Ma'idach siv yudeya tzadik din dalim. The tzadik understands the judgment of the poor. Yudeya kadosh baruch hu bekelev shemizinoisav mu'adim. Kadosh baruch hu knows that the dog doesn't have a lot of food. It's interesting because we always say, Roy lachilas kelev. You think that the dog could eat anything, even garbage. Well, seems like no. They struggle. Dogs struggle. You actually see. Now I'm thinking about it. Those stray dogs, they get really skinny. They're malnourished. They don't have mezainis like you would think. Okay, they can't eat grass. They need specific foods and they don't have it. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did a nace, or the way it works is that his food could last in his stomach for 3 days. Kedisnan. So the halach is like this: if a dog eats a corpse, eats part of a corpse, a human corpse, and then that dog walks into a room, the room is tameh or not tameh? It has a piece of human being inside of it. Tameh or not tameh? Not tameh. Very good. Not tameh. Moshe Pashk is a good tevach. I got a regard from you that somebody said he had a meeting and we wanted to meet with you or something. He said, absolutely not. Motzi Shabbos, I don't go anywhere. I got to do the daf. Shkoyach. So the halacha is, if it's inside the dog's body and the dog's alive, no tumah. But once the dog dies, then the dog doesn't have the power to shield the house from the tumah. The dog is just a dead dog. So the tumah inside the dog, the corpse, the human corpse inside the dog, the part of it, kazais, let's say, Rahman al-Islam, we're just talking theoretically here, Shem Yirachem, that part does have the ability to be mitama. But how many days after the dog ate it? 3 days. And there's no halachic 3 days. You don't say mixes hayom kikula because you're talking about a fact. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a fact that the food could stay in the dog's stomach for 3 days. It's not 3 days until Shkia. It's 3 times 24 hours. So it's me'es le'es. And what if a fish gobbled up Yaina, let's say, and then Yaina died inside, let's say, Yaina Anavi. So the fish protects from the tumah. But once the fish dies, then it doesn't protect. But how much? It's very quick. Enough that it could go into fire and it burns up. It's minutes versus 3 days. In other words, the digestive system of a fish works very, very quickly. And this is where the Mogen Avram gets it from, basically. From this line right over here, it's the minog to feed a dog, not even your own dog, any dog. Give it a bone. V'kama, Omer of Mari, Moshachudne, you should give it the size of an ear. This big. I think the human ear, not the dog ear. V'chut rabasrei. But you should walk around with a stick. You give it a bone, the size of an ear, and immediately give it a whack. Because if you don't, it's going to come after you. I unfortunately have that experience. We told people, do not feed that little dog. So somebody came and was a big tzaddik and gave him some chal, gave him some chicken. So now I suffer till this very day. Every single Shabbos he comes and begs for food. We still don't give him, but he still begs and makes us meshuggah. The chudra basrei, you take a stick, you feed it, but you chase it away. Hanami libidabro, but in the city, don't. If you give him food in the city, he'll keep on chasing you. Says Rashi, you'll lose your money. Says Rav Papa, there's no one poorer than a dog. There's no one richer than a pig. Because a pig can eat anything, but a dog can't. So Rav Yehuda says, by pushing it all the way to where it can no longer come up, is considered, what was the lashon over there? Malitin. The nafkamina was pushing it all the way where it can't spit it up to where you could spit it up. Eze amra, veze halata, halata and amra. Hamra marbitza, you make it sit down on the ground with its knees on the ground. Upagis its piyah, you open up its mouth. Umachilak arshinan umayim, the vetch and the water, bevas achas. Haloto ma'achila mu'umad, the animal standing up. Umashke mu'umad, and you give it some water. V'noizim garshinim b'fnei atzmon. Umayim b'fnei atzmon. I think we should stop here, no? We have Geshmaka, we'll have a little bit of a sugya, a little bit, 5-10 minutes, and then we have stories upon stories, and then we have another short daf. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful Motzei Shabbos. 3 more days. Monday we're doing a siyum. Tuesday we're starting Eruvin. Get your friends to join. Tell all those people that dropped out on us during Corona, they could come back. They don't have to finish Shas exactly. They shouldn't be perfectionists. You can finish Shas minus 50 daf of Shabbos. It's okay. Starting a brand new Masechta, Gevaldik Masechta. A good